All right, welcome everyone. This is the 2026 Buffalo Stampede course overview. We did this last year. We've done this at a few of our other events, and generally we get good feedback and helps people really visualize their race. I'm Joseph Dorff, the course director, and we've got Michael Dunstan here.
Hey.
Dunstan is the 100K champ from last year, and more importantly, our social media wizard for SingleTrack. So if you like the cool reels and stories that we have, it's all because of Dunstan, and every time you message our Instagram, he's the one that gets to clean up the messages.
Now they know if I haven't replied quickly, it's me too.
If it takes too long, you can maybe just DM him personally, and he'll check him. But it's we are 2 months out, essentially, just over 2 months out. And we've finally got the courses locked in for 2026. Buffalo, more than any of our events, is the hardest event to fully lock in all the courses, because we've got so many different stakeholders. Runs through Mystic, Decoland, HVP, which is the Pine Plantations, and then obviously National Parks and Council as well. So there's just a lot of moving parts, and the landscape's also always changing around here, very dynamic, depending on where they are harvesting, pine trees, or where Mystic's building trails or whatever. So yeah, lots going on, but finally got all the courses up on the website as of last Friday, and we're recording a course overview today to sort of help you visualize those courses a bit better if you're not from the area. It'll be a bit of a we like to keep it more of like if you were sitting down with me and Dunstan at a cafe before the race, and you wanted to find out a bit about the course. This is kind of how we would talk you through it, I guess, and I think that's pretty valuable for people who are coming from near and far. So I think we'll jump straight into the 100K. Dunstan's going to talk you through every step of how he won it last year, and then you guys will be able to all win it as well. So I'll share that tab. Nice. So this is from the website. You can go here yourself. This is just the 100K page, and we'll just click through the flyover, and it's a good way to just visualize the course. So obviously you got Bright down here, Mount Buffalo and the Horn over here, and the course essentially runs from Bright to Buffalo and back in a day. The cutoff is 28 hours, and people will be running everywhere from 10, 11 hours through the night. So Dunstan, talk us through the start line, because I actually wasn't at the start line this year, and I've missed the last two start lines because I did the overnight shift on Saturday night. So I don't even know what it's like.
Yeah, I think the start line actually is a really nice way to start. I think the running out of Pioneer Park is like really smooth and quite easy. There's lots of space, I think, and also I think it's nice to just have that little bit of, I guess, what is it? It's less than a K, isn't it? But there's still a kilometer or so of running before there's any significant climbing. So I think it's nice to settle in and just have good footing and not really need to worry about that. I think it's, quite easy to monitor your effort in the first little bit, but it is fast as well. So I think, you have to kind of watch that you don't go out too quick, because you could very quickly hit a significant climb. But there's nothing really noteworthy about the start. It's really like straightforward and simple, which is nice.
There'll be obviously 500-600 runners on the start line, so there'll be a lot of energy around, a lot of nervous energy, not too much blaring music at 6 a.m, but more importantly, it's dark. So where did you actually get a sunrise, Dunstan? Is it about an hour? It's about an hour of running, or hour and a half of running?
I remember having a head torch on, and it was pretty dark until realistically, we were descending from clear spot, and it was still like you had a head torch on. So
Yeah.
we did have a really gloomy, wet day where I think, you know, perhaps if it was a clear day, we would have got light earlier. But, you know, the whole first climb is dark, basically. And yeah, I remember having a head torch on the descent as well. So, and the descent is quite steep and rocky, so like good light is definitely important.
Yeah, so you want a good head torch from the start line. And yeah, so even if you feel like you'll be finished before sunset, you're guaranteed to wear a head torch at some stage. So you don't want to bring your tiniest, littlest head torch. It has to be something decent. Yeah, so the first climb goes up Emily's Spur. It's become quite a famous climb in the context of, you know, Australian trail running. Like, it's been in the Stampede for basically every edition. And a lot of our races, I mean, the 100K, 10K, and 20K all start going up the famous Emily Spur, and we'll talk about those smaller races later on. But for the 100K, it's all in the dark, and yeah, unfortunately, you won't get any of those views. But I feel like when you're running in the dark, things go by a bit quicker and like less intimidating in a way. You can kind of just get up to the summit and before you really know it, you've got 5K under your belt. The water reserve track was brought into the race last year. How does it sort of differ, I guess, from like the pine sections or the earlier section of the course going up Emily's Spur?
The water reserve track?
Yeah.
I feel like the difference is that on water reserve track, it's not as steep for sustained times like Emily's Spur is. So Emily's Spur, there's big sections where it feels like your only option is to just hike and even manage your effort hiking, whereas water reserve kind of has these like undulating little like nice running, then a downhill, and then just these big walls. But I think the nice thing to think about with water reserve track is that the steep pinches don't last for long. So it's like, don't get too intimidated by them because they're quite short climbs.
Yeah, the prime example's right there. That spot right there. I mean, this spot here leading up to, this is called actually Mystic Hill, this high point. Interesting, not many people know that. That's the Mystic Hill high point, and then it drops down, and there's that really steep one that goes up to the top of middle track essentially. And that's what, yeah, you're sort of referring to. It does get very steep. You know, it's possibly even the steepest part of the whole course, but because it only lasts for, I don't know, yeah, like 200 meters or whatever, it's not super challenging in that way. You know that it's almost over. Yeah. You get up to the high point there, and then there's a couple pretty steep downhills as well, I guess, in this whole section that traverses from Mystic to Clear Spot. It's not all uphill. Yeah. You got this is the climb to Eagle Peak, and then finally from Eagle Peak, that's when you officially start that long downhill into the Buckland. Obviously with the Clear Spot aid station not far into that descent. So Clear Spot itself is not actually as high as Eagle Peak, but that's where our aid station is. And yeah, it's I don't know, Dunstan, you've actually got a crew story from last year. It's not easy to have crew there because it's early in the morning. It's challenging to get there.
Yes.
Yeah, like maybe talk us through your experience and what you would have done if you were racing again.
Yeah, so I think, like, for example, because to that aid station there was lots of climbing, I organized a friend to have like some flasks of like drink mix to just take from there. When in hindsight, like, it would have been okay to go a bit heavier and or fill up a flask with some powder in it there quite comfortably, and very similar time because it was very wet the morning we did it, and driving up for crew and things like that's quite difficult, and also just like tricky navigating. So I actually missed my crew there, and yeah, the people who I was running with offered me their stuff. But I think in hindsight, I would probably just fill up a flask there and take your nutrition with you and just take the stress out of it for you and your crew. Potentially could be a good bet.
Yeah, there'll be some, like the back half of the field will be coming through more in daylight, but for your crew to realistically get there, they have to leave immediately after the start and then try and navigate the roads to the summit in the dark, which it's not easy to do. Like, we get a lot of people getting lost on their way up to Clear Spot, trying to crew runners. It's an awesome place to crew, and if you're organized and you're local, then I for sure get up there. But if you do want crew there, just make sure you maybe even scout the drive and really figure out how to do it. Otherwise, yeah, just take an empty flask with powder in it or something and just fill that up as you go through the aid station. Yeah, talk us through the Snake Ridge descent.
Yeah, I feel like the Snake Ridge descent, from doing it before the race and then during the race, like very quickly became obvious that it would be like a really important part of the 100K. The whole descent is like, it's not a sustained descent. The downhills in it are actually quite steep and intense, and then it will flatten out, you know, and then throw you up climbing. And I just think that you got to be very wary of not descending too hard, and then, yeah, or even climbing too hard. It's just to me, it's like, it's a really challenging section of the course where, yeah, some of the descents are like, you genuinely feel like you're just falling out of the sky a bit. But once again, they're short, like the steep pinches. So I think really just be conservative on the steep parts. And then when there is good sections of like more runnable downhill there. So this end section coming into the Buckland's really steep. And so I think just take care of your legs there, because, you know, once you do get down into the Buckland Valley, the running is fantastic, and, you know, you can work a little bit harder for way less risk. So
yeah, so you got 4K basically from this corner here where you hit the flat. Essentially 4K of flat running on mostly dirt road or pavement. So yeah, I would agree. Snake Ridge, lots of steep ups and downs, and it's a good place to take care of yourself. And obviously, once you do get into the Buckland, you've got this really, really nicely located aid station for crew. Like, did you have crew at the Buckland Valley, Dunstan? Yeah, so that's a perfect crew spot for all of the 100K and the marathon. It's heaps of parking, very wide roads, awesome spot to spectate as well, even if you don't have a runner in the race. And you can see just from how I paused this, like that really nice red line going up into the distance. That's the climb up to Keating's Ridge ahead of you. And you can see even further up the climb, further up to Big Walk. So this screenshot, I guess, kind of perfectly lays out what's ahead of you. You know, you got a bit of road through the Buckland Valley, this well-stocked aid station that's kind of going to prepare you for, like, kind of the meatiest section of the course is the next 20K, essentially. Yeah, so you obviously would have ran a lot of this climb, Dunstan, out of the Buckland up the Keating's Ridge. How did you find this climb, and what was your kind of like your visualization going into it? Because it's kind of like that stage where the start line energy's worn off, and you're like, oh, I've actually got to run 100K today.
Yeah, definitely. I think even this like road section here coming up towards Keating's, it's like, in the context of the race, it's less steep, but it's still challenging. Like it, so I think you have to be very mindful of not to run it too hard. And also because Keating's is like it is actually a pretty challenging climb. Like it's
350 meters total. Like percent. So it's not nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, you know, there are sections of it that are runnable. Many it's probably a good pole climb for hiking. Like definitely made the decision to run most of it, but I think, you know, in the context of it, like I think it's actually like a really challenging climb, and a lot of the grades in some of the steeper sections of it are definitely, you know, you're moving really well if you're hiking strong. So it demands a lot of you aerobically for those 3Ks. So, but also was a good one to try work hard up, because there's a really nice recovery off the back. So I definitely intentionally tried to run well up Keating's, and then I took it super easy down here, because yeah, I knew there was a massive long climb up to the Buffalo Chalet, like over 1,000 meters of climbing. So I was, jogging down here with Tyler, trying to prepare and just compose yourself for like a long effort up the big walk. And this is really nice running downhill here. The whole Keatings area is beautiful.
And I think I seem to remember you did actually get caught by Mike Carroll at some stage along this descent or close to the aid station. So you clearly took it a bit easier so that you could pull away on the climb. And I think that was basically, I guess, the winning move in a way, because you didn't see anyone after that. You do hit this road section as well, and I think it's about, I can't actually remember. It's less than a K from when you hit the road to the aid station, probably about half a K. And so that's pretty easy running. And as I think in the context of the whole course, it's some of the easiest Ks you'll get before coming into your Robin Creek picnic ground, which again, another great cruise spot. The 100K has a lot of runners this year, so parking on the road will be a little bit congested. So if your crew are worried about that or concerned at all, then make sure they're getting there a bit earlier than normal, and maybe being prepared to walk a bit further than last year if they've done it. And then it's a good spot to see a runner, because obviously going through your Robins on the way up to Mount Buffalo anyway. So in a crewing point of view, it's all this one way out and back drive when you can pretty much tick off all the aid stations. So talk us through your mindset going into your Robin. How are you coming in and out of that aid station? And like, I guess in an aid station mindset in total, like in general, as a runner who's trying to get the most out of themselves on this course, like what is your aid station plan, and how are you thinking about what you're doing at each aid station as you come in and leave?
So I think firstly, just wanting to get into this aid station feeling like pretty fresh off that downhill, so not beating the legs up, but also just feeling like you've recovered from the climb up Keatings. And then in that aid station there, like this climb can be like really long if you're not moving well. So I think like if you're looking to run the course and in the best time you can, like this is a big section where like it pays to make an intentional effort up this climb, because it's 10Ks for, is it 1,050 up-ish? And so I knew, I guess like this is a part where like if you did get to a chance to recce the course prior to going, is like go do an easy run and see what pace you do it up, and then you realize that this is anywhere from like a low, it can be up to 2 hours to 3 hour section for many people. So I think my biggest advice would be know like an amount of water and nutrition you need to carry, but then also don't carry heaps of extra up this climb if you don't need it, because it will cost you. Like some of these sections are so steep, and having an extra liter of fluid on you that you carry all the way to the chalet is going to cost you a lot of energy. So I think I had something caffeinated before this climb, and then pulled my poles out, because this first 2 kilometers is like really steep and a good spot to like intentionally hike. Like I was hiking with poles all the way up through here, and poles feel good for lots of this climb, but there are sections where you might feel you have more rhythm without poles further up the climb. But this first 2Ks out of the aid station is like really kind of aerobically demanding. So wanting to, I guess move intentionally up there, but don't blow yourself for the rest of the climb. So it's definitely take it easy on the first 2Ks there, because it does get, I guess, more gradual and consistent from there.
I guess for context, so even for like you, obviously you were quickest up the climb on the day out of the whole field. Are you trying to run this first bit, or are you actually walking it as well?
Oh no, I hiked it. Like I jogged like the little bits in between the steep parts, but like even the section you're on before you turn left, it was like I was just hiking really firmly with poles. And then when I came around the corner, I think I started to put my poles away, and then I didn't use poles for the rest of the climb. But like, for context, I was like feeling fit, and also I think I was basically like in low tempo for the whole climb, which was a risky move kind of thing. Like, it was a massive effort to run up. I think there's heaps of sections in this climb that if you're smart, you could hike, and then just look for the opportunities where you can run, because there are, like, you know, it looks like it's just one big gradual uphill, but like there's even sections that go downhill in this climb, like for a little bit.
Yeah, I think everyone in the field should aim to run at least some sections of it. I think it'd be a waste to not at least run the flatter or slightly downhill sections. But yeah, there are large bits where you get your poles out, especially from Mackey's Lookout. So once you hit the big open rock slabs, and it's obvious, if you've not been there, you'll know what I mean when you hit them. That's where you've hit Mackey's Lookout, and from there it gets very uneven underfoot. I don't think the gradient jumps up too much, but just the technicality of it makes it more of a hiking climb from that point on, I guess. And I'd say most people would hike from Mackey's Lookout to close to the top of the climb, because it is where you're also getting a bit more fatigued. I feel like the further you go in any climb, in any race, you know, you can probably clip off a few more running Ks earlier on, and then the longer the climb goes, it's like, all right, I'm just going to settle in and just hike. And so, yeah, the top of this climb from Mackey's onwards, it'll probably take you an even split, like, yeah, to get to Mackey's than to get to the chalet. So if you're at Euroburn, maybe take a note of the time you're at there. Once you get to the road crossing at Mackey's and you hit the rock slabs, you'll probably take a similar amount of time from there to the summit, or to the chalet aid station. So that'll give you an idea anyways. But yeah, there are some beautiful little lookouts along the way. Obviously, you don't have to go out to them, but if you're going to go out to any and you see the sign to Marriott's lookout, I'd recommend popping out there. It's only about 100 meters if you're not in a hurry. Very beautiful. But yeah, Mount Buffalo, I guess the main thing is once you get up high, it's just like insanely beautiful, especially when you can first see the chalet, which is around this area here. And that can keep you quite motivated, obviously. So coming into the chalet aid station, as Dunstan said, you've done about 10K with about 1,000 meters of climbing to get there. And that's when you sort of start this 30-ish K plateau section of the race, which, you know, it's quite a unique course because it's so broken up into different sections. Like the start, the finish, the end is also different. And especially for like those team relay runners, like they all get such a different experience. So I'll quickly talk about the chalet aid station now, because we're gonna do a slightly different arrangement to last year. As I mentioned, we've got a lot more runners in the race this year than last year. Like the 100K's growing a lot, and so one of the things we're doing is moving the position of the chalet aid station a little bit. So if you're there last year, you'll notice that it's in a different spot, much more spacious for the runners and the crew. But the big change is that crew are now to access the chalet, crew are going to park at Dingo Dell car park and then get a bus to the chalet aid station, which is about a 7-minute bus trip. So just give yourself a little bit of extra time. We've worked it out. You've still got tons of time to get from Euroburn to Dingo Dell to park and then catch the bus to the chalet, because yeah, it's only 7 minutes extra. And we'll have two 50-seat buses consistently rolling between the two spots. So like it's overkill, but like there'll never be more than a 7 to 10 minute wait at either spot. So yeah, you'll park over at Dingo Dell. There'll be information on the website about this closer to the race and the event guide. So if you can't find Dingo Dell on the map, don't worry, like we'll be in touch. But yeah, essentially they'll park there, It's 300 car spots there, huge car park. It's for a winter ski field that is just dead in summertime. So you'll all park there, and then we'll run coaches to the chalet. Because if you have ran the race, or last year you ran it, you'll know that the Gorge car park gets absolutely rammed. Like, it'll be full with tourists who have nothing to do with Buffalo anyway, and then we're trying to pile in an extra 300 cars, and that's just impossible. So slightly different crew experience, but actually it will be a lot more enjoyable for the runners and the crew, because they'll be less congested. There'll be a nice big area for the runners to come through the aid station at the top near the chalet there, and then the runners can run off, avoiding most of the car park in total. So it'll just be a very clean experience. Departing the chalet back to the course, Dunstan, how does the course run through? I guess we'll go out all the way through out to the crest out here.
Yeah, I think, and just from looking on this, and in the context of the climb, it doesn't look that significant, but the trail here like changes quite a bit, and it turns into some quite big rocky steps and steep down. It's a steep down into a steep up, and it's more, it is definitely more technical, but the trail is really good. But I think just in terms of how like demanding it is, in terms of how grindy this section is through here, you think the work's slightly done once you get to the chalet, but then this next section to about up here until you get onto the smoother trail going past Lake Katani is quite challenging, and then it turns into some really nice it's like a little fire trail there, isn't it?
Yeah,
running there is incredible. Like, it's awesome. All through here, when it goes onto the single track as well, is like, beautiful, a lot smoother single track, where like if you're feeling good and you're running well, like you can get some great Ks in. It is slightly like it's definitely more uphill than maybe it seems visually. Like, it's still challenging running, but there's lots of reward there if you're moving well, I think.
So this is long plain track, and that's similar running as you had just described. Yeah, slightly uphill, but through alpine meadows and like single track. And it's one of my favorite sections of the course just to run in general. It's just one of the, I feel like from the Lake Katani to the bottom of this climb here, it's just beautiful Mount Buffalo running conditions. And the only thing that can catch people out, I think, at Buffalo, especially if you're Australian and you've never really been to altitude or whatever, is it is flat and nice running, but it might be a little bit harder than your average flat trail, because you're sitting up around 1,500 meters there, and it's not high in the context of like altitude camps that you see on YouTube and stuff, but it's still high in the context of if you live in Sydney or Melbourne or on the coast and you don't really spend any time in the mountains, then it can be that 1-2% harder than you expect, I guess. Did you feel any of that, Dunstan, or are you pretty well adapted to that living in the Blue Mountains? Because you live at about 900 meters, 1,000 meters, don't you?
Yeah. Home's 1,000, and to be honest, in the course, didn't really notice it. And I think maybe because you do get up to the Horn and then start coming back down and drop back down quick. Like, I think you're feeling a lot of things by that point of the race too, that like I didn't particularly be like, oh, it feels like altitude. I also just think like the trail is quite challenging, but it's definitely up high, like you said, and it is tricky running. It's not easy, and even though the profile of this whole middle section looks easier, it's still challenging.
Yeah, it looks relatively mellow, but even like this little climb here where my cursor is, that was the climb out of the underground river. It looks like absolutely nothing on the map, but that climb, you will all remember it, and it's hard. And as Dunstan said, it's like rocky, steep. So don't always trust the profile essentially. But this climb that comes out of the long plain track, I don't know, it's called Zag track, or Zig or Zag. think it might be Zig Track actually. This one here is called Zag Track, I think, and this one's called Zig Track. It's a climb, and it's a narrow technical trail. It feels quite remote, and it's enough of a climb to kind of, I think, take it out of people. And it's somewhere where I'd be using poles, for example, coming out of there. Did you hike much of that climb, or did you try run much of it, Dunstan?
It's actually a good question. I feel like I'm trying to remember. I think actually that's a good question. Yeah, I know how steep it is. I remember how steep it is because I remember a lot about running down it. And when I ran down it, I would have assumed that I would have hiked up it. It was proper.
Yeah. Certainly, at this stage in the race, I think it's a pole climb. So once you're coming up from long plain track, you start going uphill. Worth getting the poles out. I think you got about a K or a K and a half of hiking ahead of you, and then eventually you'll meet the road. So you kind of if it's a good clear day, just before you get to the road, you pretty much got the money shot of the whole course. Just about there, the trail opens up into like a big alpine meadow, and straight ahead you got the cathedral, which it's incredibly beautiful. Super massive piece of rock that's up just near the hump. It's just here, looks like nothing on this Strava map, but it's pretty incredible. And yeah, definitely worth stopping and taking a selfie. And also worth mentioning, this is sort of the start of that out and back. So no matter where you are in the field, really, you'll see runners basically coming the other direction. Like whether you're coming back or you're going out, there'll be runners going the other direction. So that's where you can start giving high fives and encouraging each other. And yeah, it's 1.8K along the Mount Buffalo Tourist Road here. So slight climb up the road to the hump car park, and then once you hit the car park, it continues down the road. And this year we're not crossing over the road. We're just going to keep you on the right-hand side the whole way out, and then the left-hand side the whole way back. And we're going to put bollards the whole length of the road this year as well. So a bit of a different traffic management situation going on there. And then I guess one major change that Parks wanted us to put in for this year was we're not going to include Cresta Valley ski slope anymore, which will probably be good news to a lot of you who've done it. It's a sort of a steep climb, steep descent, which we just have to take out of the course. But as I was saying earlier, it's probably only going to take out about 100 meters total climbing from the course, or less. So yeah, it's not a huge change in terms of the stats from last year, but yeah, slightly easier. You just stay on the road a little bit longer, and then you still do meet the Cresta Valley management track that goes around the outside of the valley there, as you can see on the map, and comes into Cresta aid station. Now, I can't remember, was it like clear and good conditions last year when you ran through there, or cloudy?
Cloudy, but good conditions.
Yeah, because a couple of years ago it was absolutely terrible, and I ran through there and everyone's crew was, hiding in their cars, or it might be beautiful weather and sunny and nice and cool, and they'll all be cheering in the aid station. But depending on the day, Cresta has a big variation in experience, I guess. Super exposed up there. Yeah, you're kind of starting that whole like moonscape section, I guess, where it's like another world, I guess, all the way up to the Horn. The fires went through there a few times in the last 10, 20 years, and some of it's quite burnt out. And then there's just like huge boulders everywhere, very rocky, very open and exposed, and super memorable. But yeah, if it's not a great day and you've got crew there, it's somewhere that they can they're probably just going to be in their car waiting for you somewhere along the road. So yeah, like they'll be able to park all the way along the road there up to the start of the dirt road. So if they're not immediately at the aid station, they may be further up somewhere. But yeah, the aid station itself will have drop bags. And I didn't mention it, but Robin's also got drop bags, which is the one before the big walk starts. So yeah, somewhere to kind of recuperate and reset, I think, especially at this stage in the race where you're about halfway in and you're about to go up to the horn, which yeah, it's not a super hard out and back, but yeah, I think it just at this stage of the race, you're just tired and ready to reset, and you get to come back through here again, which is quite nice because it's you'll have already been through that aid station. You kind of know you got your visualization of that spot ready to go. Dunstan, how'd you go up this road essentially all the way to the horn? Like there's that little trail section up the top, but maybe just talk us through this section out to the horn and back.
Yeah, this is actually, I think it's, one of my favorite parts of the whole course. It's like really good running. When you mentioned altitude, this is one section that I do feel like it is harder running, or like if you expect to run a certain pace or effort kind of thing, like you will be moving slower up here. I think I noticed that, especially in training runs and things, is that this part is tricky. Like you might look at the grade and be like, this is a grade I can usually run, but it might force you to hike just from getting up to closer to 1,700 meters. What's the max height of the horn, Joel?
Yeah, 1723.
Yeah. The dirt road and these little switchbacks, like the views everywhere is incredible. We had quite a cool morning, so that like it felt like it was really good. But I can imagine, on a sunny day where you're in direct sun, it's exposed and everything, that would add a whole nother element where like this climb up would just be this gradual slog. But yeah, I think cool to make the most of the fire trail because it's really good running, or hike really intentionally. And then you obviously turn off to go on the single track up to the horn, and which
is like just about there essentially.
Yeah, and I think maybe visually it looks perhaps like a bigger climb than it takes time-wise. The trail is really good, big stone steps, and the footing is, really good. So I think it projects you up there really quick. So, if you intentionally hike up it, it'll throw you up to the summit really quick. And, you're ducking under tunnels and stuff, and the views at the top and on the way up are incredible. I think it's just an awesome spot of the course, and it feels pretty surreal turning around and you got to run all the way back to Brighton Pioneer Park. So, but I feel like you feel pretty satisfied because you've also done basically half the course, but also a net uphill version of half the course. So like you do have a lot more downhill running. So I think that was something I kept in mind, is that aerobically, you've done the harder half. Now it's just like going to be harder on your legs with the downhill.
No, that's exactly right. And then you got this, nice dirt downhill back to Cresta, which, I found it quite fun during the race, depending on how you're feeling. And then, as I said, you've been through Cresta before, so you know what to expect. You know where to get your lollies and your gels, and you can maybe make that a bit of a quicker transition. Noting that, the journey back to the chalet, I think it might be the longest section between aid stations in terms of kilometers. But, not the toughest journey in terms of vertical gain or whatever, but, you're at that stage of the race where things can take you longer than you thought. So maybe a section that, depending on the day, might be a good one to carry a bit extra water or food or whatever. Because haven't got any of those huge climbs to go up. This is a section that Dunstan won't know. Last year, this is the other really small change, I guess, from last year's courses. Last year they went right at this stage and continued back down for a little bit more of an out and back, and then turned left towards Mount Dunn track. This year we're splitting you earlier, so making that out and back a bit shorter, and avoiding this more narrow piece of trail for the out and back. So it'll just help with course congestion. And I'll also add some new trail to the course, which is quite nice, and something a bit different and a bit more unique single track around Mount Buffalo, I guess. And then eventually you meet the old course here again, so not a huge detour before you start that little climb. There's a little rise here up to Mount Dunn, which again, one of those climbs that looks like nothing on a map, but I think at this stage in the race, like any little climb starts to add up and is not that welcome in a trail runner's mindset. But yeah, you get to the top, you see the signpost to Mount Dunn, and then essentially from that signpost to Mount Dunn, you've got, well, really from that point, you've got a long runnable downhill / flat all the way to the monolith track, and it's probably 6 or 7K from that signpost to the start of the monolith track. So did you have a game plan for the reservoir, this section of the course, Dunstan? Was this somewhere that you intentionally thought, I'm going to try and actually tick off some quick Ks and make a move? Or
yeah, I definitely did. Probably worth noting that just before I say that, but just like this section of the trail, and I guess once you got back on the single trail, was the first time where I genuinely kind of felt like a bit hot and bothered again. Like this section, if we had a pretty cool day and it still felt muggy and kind of like it was pretty challenging through here, and it didn't really feel like you got like you were ever running downhill enough to really recover. It was like, I remember feeling hot through here, but the bit you're talking about, I guess I remember it being in my head, I was like, oh, there's 4Ks of really smooth fire trail that you can make the most of. So I definitely ran them like pretty firm, because that was my game plan. If I'm feeling good here, like you can tick off 4Ks, 5Ks really, really like efficiently. So I basically just ran them as quick as I could without overdoing it. And yeah, it's awesome running through there. Like I just think compared to the rest of the running on those single trails, that bit's like a highway. It's awesome. And yeah, then coming back in, I remember it. Yeah, this climb, I remember it being a bit ruder than I thought. And also, yeah, just getting back onto the trail and stuff. I think at this time of the race, like it's probably worth noting that even from like when you climbed up earlier, like Mackey's and then all on this plateau, it's like, while it is like fairly straightforward, like it's not too hard to just do an ankle. Like I remember a couple near misses with bad ankle rolls up here, and then like hyperextending and a bit weird jumping a fallen branch and stuff. So I think like this whole area is just like really make sure that you are stocked up on your energy and feeling fresh mentally, because it's like almost that technicality where there's not much going on, so you can get complacent. So just be mindful of that for sure.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's a great description for the plateau. I think that's pretty much that loop defined is like, you know, mixes of single track, rocky, technical, and yeah, you've done like 30K of the best trail running I reckon you could ever do. Back to the chalet, which again, like your crew, they can drive out to Cresta. So I did mention that they can have their car out there. So they'll get so you'll go from the chalet, they'll get the bus back to their car, they'll drive out to Cresta, see you there, hang around for a few hours, no doubt, because you got that out and back, and then they'll drive back to Dingo Dell and then catch the bus again over to the chalet. You know, obviously a crew doesn't have to go to every aid station as well, worth mentioning. Like if you want to give them a break, often as a runner, they'll never ask you, hey, can I skip that aid station? But if you don't actually think that you desperately need them at the second chalet or whatever, then tell them, hey, look, you can go home and have dinner. It's probably not the worst thing to do as a runner, to give your crew a bit of a break at some stage. So yeah, maybe they're at the chalet, maybe they've gone back to Bright for dinner to meet your Robin or whatever, but they can catch the bus here again, see you again, and then this is essentially where the course now basically jumps into the marathon course. And the marathon does do a little 8 or 9K loop around some of the Mount Buffalo section. And then from this point, it meets the 100K course, and the last 35K or so of both races are exactly the same. And so we'll just jump over to the marathon map now, and we'll just sort of talk about the marathon and the 100K sort of concurrently. We'll quickly talk about this little loop up the top of the marathon, because it is the first couple, like, it's a beautiful little section of the course, but in terms of the whole context of the marathon course, I think that first little loop up the top is it's definitely probably some of the easier running. And because of the size of the marathon as well, you do get it's pretty wide. We try to keep it pretty spacious and wide. We don't want to congest the field too much. We'll have like probably 800 or 900 starters on the Sunday morning, so there'll be a few waves of you similar to last year. And then the first 2K of the course is essentially just that wide road out from the chalet to Tucker Box Corner, which is that first corner you get to when you're driving to the chalet, and then up along the road to the parks office. And then slight change from last year. Dunstan, you wouldn't have ran this trail, but it wasn't open last year. We're just bringing you up to the monolith earlier. So last year they kept running along the road a bit, only a couple 100 meters, and then along up to the monolith, which was the 100K course. This year we'll use the more touristy, I guess, monolith track, and that'll take you right past the monolith, which is cool. So it's a bit of a wider track through here, which is nice, and then does get a little bit starey and a bit steeper, but by that stage in the race, hopefully you're a bit more spread out, and it's pretty wide. You can pass people easily enough in the marathon. And then you do actually run like pretty much immediately past the monolith, right about there. And it is only, I think it's only 100 meters out and back to the top. So I don't know. I'm sort of thinking, like, is there some, like, it's not mandatory to go to the monolith, but it's super, super beautiful up there. And it's like kind of a crime to not go up there. So I'm like, should we give away like a badge or something to people who go to the monolith at the start of the marathon? I don't know. I'm trying to think of an idea. Maybe message us if you've got one. But yeah, look, if you're not in a super hurry and you're out for a good day, I would recommend doing the tiny out and back to the top of the monolith. Like, it's not immediately there. It'll take you 5 minutes to get up there and 5 minutes to get back down. But yeah, it's one of the better lookouts on the whole mountain, and it's just insane. It gives you a great scope of the whole mountain. Absolutely beautiful. But for the vast majority, I'm sure you'll just run straight past and continue along down the monolith track. You get very close to the chalet, which is where you started, and then you're actually going to turn right. And this is a nice wide dual path, like drivable trail essentially, where you can pass people who you might have got caught behind or find your place in the pack again. And that's when at the end of that, you turn left onto the Underground River track, which is the 100K course again. It's just the 100Ks obviously come out the opposite direction. And that's kind of like the more technical, difficult part, where the difficulty of the marathon sort of kicks in. A bit more rocky, a bit more steep. By that stage in the race, you're sort of spreading out a little bit more. So hopefully you're not getting stuck behind too many people. And yeah, you got that steep technical sort of climb up to the chalet again, which will be the start line, obviously, but also the first aid station of the marathon. And it's where, as I said, the 100K and the marathon from this point are exactly the same. So the last 35K or so of the marathon, we can talk about that alongside the 100K finishes. So the 100K at this stage, depending on where you are, there's a very wide window of like daylight Dunstan would have come through here early afternoon probably. But then, you know, you've got the cutoffs like later at night. So some people it's well dark by this stage, and you've got your head torch on. And we do have a pacer option as well. So if you're at all concerned about running at night for the 100K, and that's a barrier to giving it a go or whatever, then bring a friend along for the last 35K, you know, like the chalet to the finish. We've given you the option of having a pacer, and they can join you on course. So one at a time. You can have as many as you want, as long as there's only one at a time. So you can swap at Eurobin and Buckland if you haven't got super fit friends. But yeah, good way to make it a bit safer as well, I guess, if you wanted the extra like navigational errors to be ironed out. But yeah, so basically from here onwards, it could be nighttime in the 100K. And the marathon's obviously coming through. This is sort of like 8 a.m. in the morning by the time you get to this point. So yeah, talk us through this big walk downhill in the context of the marathon, Dunstan, and then the 100K, if there's anything specific as well.
Yeah, well, I think, yeah, in context of both, like it's a massive chance to blow the back end of your race. The first part, I guess, like to where you've actually like signaled to is, I mean, there is actually like some good climbing in there that maybe everyone talks about it just being one long downhill, but I think there's a cool opportunity, yeah, coming out of here in both races, marathon and the 100, to climb well, make some time up while like not taking risk on, because it is more technical underfoot. Yeah, because this whole first 4-5Ks of the downhill is that mixture of like rock and yeah, just pretty challenging single trail where, yeah, your legs do take a beating if you're not running, I guess, with some sort of flow. So I think, yeah, for the marathon, picking a pace that feels like you're moving fast and efficiently, but not braking too much, because, yeah, if you end up getting down further into the big, to the bottom of the big walk and your legs are gone, like the climbs in the back end of the race are going to feel pretty terrifying. This whole technical section, I think, is it should be one of your main priorities, should be getting through it unscathed in terms of no ankle rolls, no falls or anything, because it is like, yeah, I think we don't really refer to Buffalo as being that technical a race, but this section here is like, I mean, there's some sections where it's very similar to running at GPT, like for sure, like the footing is rock hopping kind of thing. So yeah, getting through Mackey's unscathed would be my goal for both of those, and taking it easy, because then once you I guess cross the road and then get onto the single trail where the marker is now, the running is really good and the footing's smooth and it's fast, and you know, you can move well without feeling like you need to be hesitating or cautious or braking. So yeah, this section here where it's more gradual and not as steep is awesome running. So let the legs roll, particularly in the marathon. I feel like find a good flow here. This last 2Ks that we're coming to again is like, yeah, I think it's high risk. Like you want to be moving down here at a pace that's conserving your legs for the Keating's climb, because it's, yeah, you descend from memory anyway. There's at least like 300 meters of descent in that 1.5 or 2Ks there.
Yeah, it's more technical at the end for sure.
Yeah, so taking it easy there, and maybe like trying to set yourself up well for the Eurobin aid station and the climbs ahead. And yeah, so
yeah, you kind of hit Eurobin. And in the marathon, like, yeah, hopefully you're not feeling too tired, but obviously 1,000 meters downhill, yeah, for the majority of athletes taking on the marathon, that'll still take it out of them quite a lot. For the 100K, yeah, this is like, I don't know, it's almost war zone territory now, where you're no matter who you are, no matter how you've ran, like you're always going to start getting really tired, and like this Keating's Ridge climb. I mean, even for the marathon, I've never, like most people hate Keating's Ridge on the way back in the 100K or for the marathon, because it is that gradient where you shouldn't feel too bad, but in training, but then race day, you know, it's especially for the 100K, very, very tough going up here. And I'd be interested to know, like, how much of this climb did you actually manage to run in the race?
Yeah, well, this one here, I actually, but it's kind of, it needs context because on the big walk down, my stomach and my downhill legs started feeling average. So I actually was like, oh, I'm better off just running up the whole of Keating's, and then because I know I'm going to lose time in the next downhill. So I ran off Keating's, but it was super challenging. Like, and especially when your legs feel like that off the big walk. I would argue that, yeah, if you went down the big walk a couple minutes slower, like I'm sure you'd move up Keating's and make those minutes back. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of time to be gained on Keating's Ridge for sure in both races. It's the same stats sort of from either direction. So yeah, it's another 350-meter climb-ish from the aid station to the saddle here. So yeah, substantial climb, you know, like people kind of forget about it in the 100K, but you know, how many like 350-meter climbs are there, like, you know, in a general Australian town? Like, not many. Like, it's still a big climb.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the marathon, I think it's, yeah, one of those ones where you just want to set your race up. You know, if you can run a lot of it, great, but there are some steep pitches for sure that I know most people will be walking up. I'd try and run anything that's, you know, more mellow and you're feeling good. But yeah, this can be, depending on the time of day, and a lot of you will be going up there early enough that it won't matter, but it can be a hot climb. But yeah, certainly some of the people quite at the back of the field. Yeah, it'll start getting warm, especially, I don't know, for some reason the marathon's always the hot day and the 100K is always the cold day, but maybe
yeah,
it'll up this year, I don't know.
Probably worth noting too that I think even in the 100K when we did it on a cool day, I ended up starting to use an ice bandana at Eurobin after the finish of the big walk descent. But in hindsight, like, I think it would be a smart idea to have ice ready at the chalet or even earlier. Like yeah, I would have if I could have my time again. Like it was warm on that downhill on the big walk.
Yeah, on a hot day for sure. And even in the marathon, probably wouldn't need it for that first loop because it can often be quite cold. But if it is a warm day, even in the marathon, you could put an ice bandana on at Eurobin or even the chalet if you've got, you know, the capability to. It wouldn't hurt. Yeah, if it's a hot 100K day and we haven't had one, in fact, I don't think we've ever had a properly hot 100K day. But if we did have a properly hot one, an ice bandana at every aid station would be, you know, super life-saving and probably change your race, I think. Because yeah, end of March can be still very warm for sure. This downhill, so it's actually an amazingly good downhill to run, and in training it's one of my favorite. Like, you can properly nail this because you've got, from this point where I'm stopped all the way to the bottom of Dinga Ridge, you've got about, I think it's about 8 or 9K of just like pretty good fast running. So I think in the marathon, like, this is a really important section to make sure you're feeling good, because it'd be a waste of time and a waste of good running to come into here with a stitch or with like a cramp or something like that. Especially for your mindset, having to walk or, you know, jog slowly some of this downhill would be quite upsetting. So, and the 100K to some extent as well. I think even in the 100K, no matter who you are, if your goal is to run that entire downhill, then I think that's a good goal. But you said yourself, Dunstan, you kind of were in that situation where you probably couldn't have taken advantage of this as much as you would have liked to.
Yeah, I definitely lost. Like, I've run it in training before and then ran it in the race, and I really was in a lot of pain with my stomach and just like feeling like I was limited by it cramping up, like just trying to run down it at not even fast, like compared to what you could run down there, you know. So it was a real battle, and really I think this is where yeah, the wheels really started to kind of fall off, and every bit was challenging. So I think, yeah, good advice is like, this is premium running here. It is really late into the race, and it's going to be hard compared to when you've done it in training, when you've done all that before it. But yeah, awesome fire trail, like beautiful. Like I think even just like running through the bush there is stunning. Like it's one of the nicest parts of the course in the trees there.
Yeah, you're deep in the national park there. It's a good road, but still quite remote. Beautiful forest. But yeah, like if you look at your splits, like you lost a lot of time here to say like Esther, who came second overall. You were a long way ahead at the chalet, and then she closed a lot of time at the end. So
yeah,
it shows you how like there's different ways of racing. Obviously, the way you attacked the start of that course, you banked a lot of time, by the time you got to the chalet, but then you also sacrificed a little bit at the end. So it kind of depends on how you want to run the course, I guess. But
yeah,
like two different ways of doing it. You could definitely take it easy and then just try and really take on the 100K from the chalet back to Bright, because it is very good running. And yeah, like that from the chalet down to the bottom of Dingo, I think you got 22K or something, basically downhill with one climb in the middle. So the marathon, it's kind of known as like a downhill marathon, and this is the downhill part that kind of defines that before you get to the Dingo Ridge. So you if you're on a good day in the marathon, you can get to the bottom of Dingo at pretty crazy splits. Like you'll probably look at your watch and think, oh, I'm a pretty good runner. The first, well, let's say a look. The first 26K is a pretty massive net downhill with only one little climb, 350-meter climb in the middle. So certainly it's not a negative split race. It's a positive split race. The back half of this marathon is a lot harder. So you got to kind of take advantage of this nice big open downhill off Keatings. And then you got 3K of sort of paved road through the Buckland Valley, which I think is another defining factor of the marathon, how it changes so much. You got the plateau section up the top. It's often quite cold, beautiful alpine Mount Buffalo conditions running in the clouds. Then you got the huge 10K descent, which changes every single step of the way down. You got from rocky down to more runnable to then like, rutted out down the bottom. And then the Keatings Ridge road climb, Keatings Ridge forest descent, and then you're into the Buckland Valley, which is like hot, open, exposed road for 3K, and through like an absolute party of an aid station. Did you get to the Buckland on the Sunday, Dunstan, for the marathon?
I didn't.
Yeah, a lot of you wouldn't have been there, but like it's amazing. It's so good. There's cars parked all the way up the road here and either side and everywhere, and there's the aid station's right where the cursor is now. And it's just, I don't know, seems like thousands of people there supporting and crewing and cheering, and it's very social. So very good vibes and a good way to pick you up before heading up Dingo Ridge. The 100K, obviously, vibes are a bit smaller. It feels very spaced out by this time. So if you're finally sort of running in your own like bubble, just kind of, I guess, suffering your way to the finish. But a lot of you will be coming through Buckland at night time, obviously, in the 100K. And it's a pretty critical point to rest and reset. And I think even Dunstan himself, he probably spent a bit of time at Buckland just mentally getting ready for that Dingo Ridge climb, which, I don't know, in a way, I feel like Dingo Ridge is just more famous than any climb on any of the courses because of just, especially the marathon, how much it defines that marathon and its difficulty. And the 100K, it's like the final nail in the coffin for a lot of runners. So did you spend any time at Buckland, or did you try and get in and out pretty quick?
I actually spent a fair while because yeah, my stomach was no good, so I couldn't really get much nutrition in. I don't know if it was like it was just having too much or something, or whether the humidity and just running that hard took its toll. But I went to the bathroom because I was like, well, it's if I lose a couple minutes, but I like try to sort my stomach out and stuff, but like nothing. And then so my stomach was no better. But I did take some time to just like ice bandana, like fill up, have a chat to my crew, like recompose. Wasn't in a like much of a rush out of there. Because you know what's coming up. And then I think, running out of it, that road there is like I remember my mental chatter being like, oh man, you're really slowing down now. But then seeing like how it ended up gapping up the road, that is fairly uphill. So like don't be disheartened if you feel like you're not moving great there. That road hill is challenging. And I think that would be my advice for Dingo Ridge in a whole is like overall is that if you feel like you're not moving well, like every chance is that you are moving pretty well still. It's just that steep. So yeah, once you turn right up here, I had my
yeah. You can see it pretty clear there, and you can see even just with that shot how many false summits there are really. You know, there's a lot of these little high points along the way that aren't actually the top, and that's obviously important to know before you climb up. But certainly with Dingo Ridge, that's a pole climb all the way to the top.
Yeah.
Race you're doing, like, even in the marathon, what would be your advice?
Yeah. Well, I guess depending on what your approach is, but I think like, for the 100, like it was on those steep pinches, it was like just relying on the poles very heavily, like leaning into them, making the most of them. When you got to the flatter bits, I'd put poles in one hand and jog, or like briskly walk if I was feeling really demoralized. Thinking the marathon, like even just from filming certain years, like I've watched people running every step get overtaken by people hiking. Just pick whatever you feel you've practiced the most in training. There's no right or wrong. Like if you feel more comfortable tapping up it in the marathon, some people can do that. But I think, you know, on those steep pinches, they're definitely hikeable grade, and hiking well up them is moving really fast. I think looking at the stats of this whole climb, I was like, oh yeah, it's not too bad. Like doesn't look that bad. But what you realize once you run it is there's so much actual flat sections in between, and the steep pinches are really steep. So I think just like every flat one is almost like take a breather, like recalibrate, and then just be intentional about each little pinch, just like whether it's breath counting or just work hard to the top of this one, or because it feels like it's never ending, and you can kind of see it just as a bit of a journey. But it's definitely for the 100K, like I think you're just doing the best you can by that stage, hiking up it and moving forward. For me, like I felt like it was like, how do you move much slower or like get a breath back without just fully stopping stationary? So like if you do have to stop stationary for bits and just get your breath back before attacking it, like I think that's kind of normal. Like some of those pinches are so steep that there's no way to do it easily. So it's pretty wild at the back of the 100.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's good advice. Don't feel bad about being stationary, because I think a lot of people suffer a lot up there, and especially in the marathon. The way that the course is designed, I don't know what it is about it. I don't know why it's so hard, but I think it's something to do with the net downhill into this crazy climb that it just really wrecks people. It's the kind of climb that you'll go take a selfie at the start of the next day and be like, I'm never coming back here.
Yeah, I think it feels like it was definitely like the most suffering in the whole race was on Dingo Ridge for me in the 100 for sure. It was pretty full on.
So you'll still do this out and back, same as last year in the marathon on the 100K to clear spot. That's the best spot for the aid station. I definitely recommend, if you want to have crew there for the 100K, it's an awesome spot for them to come up, spend a couple hours. So there is enough parking. And it's just a beautiful spot on a good day, so they can hang out and wait for you, cheer some runners, screw you, and then head to the finish line and just hang out there for you to finish. Other than that, you can skip it and get a few hours off before between the Buckland and the finish line. Marathon, same thing. Crew are allowed there. Just depending on how stressed you want to be and how fast your runner is, you might not have a ton of time to get from there down to the finish. But yeah, beautiful spot for crew. That's all I wanted to say. And it is people, as I said, people do get lost going up there, but we'll have a bit more road signage, like mark the actual driving route this year. And so hopefully that'll be less of a problem. But yeah, so very, I guess almost like an emotional spot on the 100K course where it's kind of like that last aid station. It is the last aid station for the 100K runners, and you kind of know that you're almost there. You can see bright as well, pretty clearly down below you. And yeah, it's like that mixture of like, I'm actually going to get this done versus while at the same time I've still got to run like an annoying like 10K or whatever it is to the finish. Did you have any specific emotions at this stage of the race, Dunstan, or was this just like just fully head down, get it done sort of thing?
Yeah, I feel like I got there and I actually was pretty toast, and I asked a few questions about where people were and stuff, and then they told me they didn't refer to second place. They didn't mention where Esther was, and I found out further down middle track how much Esther was closing, and so that gave me like some sort of motivation to like, get a wriggle on. But I think at the clear spot aid station here, like I was mentally preparing for like just being switched on to get down middle track without making a mistake, because I think like even though you've made it this far, like middle track's over really quickly. Like I think a lot of the people's hype and fear about how steep and like brutal a descent of middle track is kind of like, I think when you actually go run it in the race, it's like it just demands you to be switched on for a short amount of time before it opens up into the fire trail. So I was just trying to get mentally, because by then I feel like my brain was pretty foggy and just not great. So yeah, there was not much emotion going on then other than just get down safely and then worry about it from there.
And in the marathon, like I think in the 100K, a lot of this will just become a blur. But in the marathon, it's like, you know, very important to know the details and the specifics. Like this, leaving the aid station, you obviously see, you know, some of the runners around you, give them some encouragement on the out and back. And then, yeah, you got a few little pinches are still around. Like it's kind of a mountainous course still around to the top of middle track. You know, you got some climbs. You might even have your poles out for a few of them if you've got poles in the marathon. There's some pretty substantial kick ups, and then eventually you do start like quite a long, like a really long descent from this high point all the way to the finish, essentially. Like from that high point to the end, you've got like probably 8K or so of just downhill running, and obviously the crux of that and the big meat of that is middle track, which the 100K, it's kind of like you just got to get down it. Like there's not much we can say here that's going to help you at that stage of the race. Like it's technical, it's rutted out, it's proper, you know, like gnarly trail running. For the marathon, I think it's somewhere that there's just going to be a super wide range of abilities on that, and it's probably going to very much favor those runners who are just able to navigate more technical terrain. You can train for that, and certainly I'd be getting out and doing some rocky descents and loose stuff. The more downhill running you do in that sort of 2 months until the race, the better you're going to be equipped to handle like this final downhill. But yeah, it like do you want to compare maybe middle track, Dunstan, to the big walk and how they're actually just very different downhills, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, because stats wise, middle track's around 2K for 500 descent, right? Yeah. I think like if you were, it's kind of like the bottom K or two of the big walk, but with like more angled, like rutted out and rocky footing, I guess. It feels like it's pulling you down quicker. Like I remember messaging someone who wanted to practice for middle track elsewhere, and I was like, it's not too dissimilar if someone's coming from like a New South Wales area, like almost some parts of the Lockleys descent, like to the Gross River. Like I think your best friend on this descent is probably just having like fast feet, and with whatever you can do is being somewhat confident on it, because of when you're sitting back, I think it really can destroy your legs. But yeah, I think for the 100 for sure, it's just doing the best you can. But yeah, it's challenging, but when you run it well, like it's over very quick, or even if you're not running it well, like just take your time and walk certain sections that feel intimidating, and you'll pop out on the fire trail before you know it. And then
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the marathon will have just a water point there. It's an aid station for the 20K the day before, but it's for the marathon, and you're so close to the finish that a lot of you will just sort of run through there, depending on how you're feeling. You've only got like less than 4K to go, 3.5K to go or so, and it's very straightforward, I guess. You do go through the Sycamore Trail here, which is like this twisty, turny mountain bike trail, and then onto some flowy downhill Baker's Gully trails. So the last 3K of the race is quite enjoyable. And yeah, you're rewarded for a lot of that steeper work that you've done earlier on middle track. And then that's the 100K and the marathon sort of coming to an end. Those who ran the 100K or the marathon last year will notice that the finish is a little bit different this year. It's actually the same as it was 2 years ago, just the way that we've tweaked the course and figured out how the traffic management should work, and feedback and stuff. So yeah, we're gonna make it a bit more streamlined coming into town. You'll boost around the back of some houses on some dirt roads, and then the last few K, or really the last K or so, will be footpaths and paved roads. And then you'll come into Pioneer Park, which is for the 100K where you started. And for the marathon, it's where you probably caught the bus from in the morning, sort of completing that journey. So that's the 100K and the marathon. So yeah, obviously very different races. The 100K, tons of climbing, very mountainous, brutal sort of mountain ultra, and the marathon's got that unique kind of downhill, I guess, trend, but rips people up with some of the finish, pinches and Dingo Ridge and down middle track, which give it that sort of sky running vibe. So we'll talk about the finish line interview that only Dunstan had to do that. If you win the race, you have to do a finish line interview. So probably best if you don't win the race. So let's do the 20K. So 20K runners, obviously they're probably only just tuning in for just this 20K talk through, unless you're a Grand Slam runner and you're doing all three. But yeah, the 20K. So last year, I'll just talk through quickly this is the course with the sort of major changes from last year. It's one course that was affected mostly last year by this closure of Clear Spot. They were culling, the pines through here, sort of cutting the pines down along that ridgeline, so we couldn't use the main sort of ridgeline down into town. So we ended up having a course that was quite unique, to the out and back to Clear Spot and then back again. Created great vibes, and we could have stuck with that same course, but I felt that we should at least include this ridgeline descent into town if we can. and kind of trying to reimagine that 20K into what is the ideal sort of 20K for a visitor coming to Bright. Yeah, there's the 20K is obviously very much determined by like our parameters with Mystic and HVP, considering it's all sort of in HVP land. So yeah, this is the 2026 course, and it's mostly the one thing to probably note is it is hard, and it's probably like it's a good 10% harder or steeper, I guess, than last year. So if you did it last year, then you'll be in for a slightly more challenging day, I think. But yeah, Dunstan knows all these trails pretty well, and he will be able to talk you through it. So yeah, starting at the event village, this is like a 7:30 sort of start. We'll have some waves this year to spread you out, being a slightly bigger field again. All the races are growing. And yeah, you get the nice, as Dunstan said, little warm up, I guess, a couple, well, like 1.5K along the roads of Pioneer Park before hitting Emily's Spur. Now, you ran the 100K, Dunstan, but if you were running the 20K, maybe talk us through a bit of a different mindset shift for this Emily's Spur climb.
Yeah, I think, with Emily's Spur, like, it's, I guess, like some of the pinches there, I just want to be super mindful of like not completely blowing out your legs. But I think in the 20K, like if you're running, depending on where in the pack you are or anything, but like some of Emily's Spur does start to become a lot more runnable. Like I think there's sections there where there's opportunities to run, and then when it really steepens up, get into a power hike kind of thing. And I think, yeah, I think that would be the difference in mindset, is look for opportunities to jog where you can and just change gears. Yeah, because I think like it's only a short section of course, but like moving well up it versus not moving up well up it and not being intentional, there's still minutes there for sure. Yeah, so depending on what your strategy is, whether you prefer to run up steep inclines or really get hands on knees and power hike hard, like just double down on your strategy and don't be too phased about what someone else next to you is doing, I'd say.
Yeah, 100%. And hopefully you got a good day. Emily's Spur is very open at the moment, and you can get some pretty great views over towards Feathertop or back to Bright. But yeah, steep climb. You got about a mile of distance with about 400 meters of climbing, so it's steep, and it's probably the most done, almost classic hiking, like running touristy climb in the area, and for a good reason. Like it's consistent, it's the perfect workout hill. You get good views, and then you obviously get rewarded at the summit of Mystic at the launch pad with amazing views over Bright and Mount Popunka area. Similar to last year, you'll continue on to Water Reserve, and this isn't really the top of the climb because obviously the high point of this section is the top of Middle Track. So maybe again, Dunstan, just talk through that Water Reserve section similar to the 100K.
Yeah, I think leading from there, like the trail is actually really nice, and you get a bit of a breather from the launch pad area. This section here on Water Reserve track is like, I think we're still kind of heading downhill here at this stage, aren't we? Yeah, I think it's a good point to just like let the legs fly, but try catch a bit of a breather just from the effort of moving up Emily's Spur quite hard, because yeah, this next section, while it's not as steep as Emily's Spur in terms of like how consistently steep, it does still have some big pinches. So if I were looking to race the 20 kilometer as best as I could, I would be trying to leave a bit of room to, when I do hit those steep pinches, to move up them intentionally and, try get them over and done with as such, because usually on the other side of them, as you can see coming up here, is like you do have little downhills rolling off the back to kind of reset for the next one. But yeah, they're really steep in grade, if not steeper than some of the parts of Emily's Spur. So I think, yeah, you're going to be, even in the 20K, I'd say you're very much likely just power hiking.
Mm. Yeah, there's one particularly steep one just coming up to this point here, which kind of drags on a bit longer than you want it to. And then you do have I guess a false like downhills, like you think you're on the actual downhill. It does get pretty steep, and then you got one final steep pinch, unfortunately, before you get to the top of middle track. So yeah, that's essentially where you get to this point. You're still on like a dual trail, like a fire, like kind of like a fire break sort of ridgeline track, with some good views on either side, and then you do hit the top of middle track, which yeah, so for the 20K runners who obviously haven't listened to the 40K rundown, like, and I guess it's a different proposition for the 20K runners who, you know, this is their first downhill they're getting to. They've got fresh downhill legs. Yeah, this is a pretty important part of the 20K course, I think, in terms of like trying to get the most out of your race. So talking through the middle track descent.
Yeah, so just visualizing how I'd race it, I think, and knowing how steep, and I guess this descent's like roughly the single track section anyway. It was 2K for 500 down. It's like rutted out like water route. If it is dry, like it can be skatey. So I guess like finding like a way to run down it confidently without going too fast and feeling like you need a break. I think that's probably going to be your best friend, is finding a sweet spot of like finding flow down here without going too hard, because I think the footing is kind of rocky and loose in parts, but it's just steep, so you just got to do your best to, I think I'm trying to conserve my legs as best as possible, like listening to how your body feels. And if someone blasts past you, I'd just be listening to how you're feeling, because the next climb that you'll face is going to be really challenging, even if your legs are fresh after this downhill. So I think this to me seems like a bit of a crux of the race in terms of, this sets up your back half of your race. So going a little bit slower here might be the very thing that sets you up for the next climb and last downhill. Would you say?
Yeah, I think one thing like is this whole course is going to be so segmented in people's abilities. Like the climb of Heavenly Spur, you might be passing tons and tons of people thinking you're a legend and just cruising, and then you could get to middle track and find that, you know, maybe like half the field is a lot better at that sort of trail and passing you constantly, and you're having to look over your shoulder and step aside a lot. And then there's another big climb and you could pass a lot. Like, I feel like there's going to be a lot of back and forth between the field. Especially on middle track, I think it's a good place to accept that, you know, it's a trail that's just going to suit some runners a lot better than others. I think you can do a lot now with 2 months out from the race to prepare for it. But if you haven't gotten some sustained steep trail training in between now and then you might struggle a bit more. Whereas some people who have access or have really prioritized, you know, their downhill technique and downhill running are going to be a lot more confident on middle track. So, I think if you're watching this 2 months out from the race, you don't need more than 2 months to get good at downhill running. That's a great window of time, and if you can, you know, find your biggest, steepest downhill near you, or who knows, maybe you've got the luxury of going to like, you know, some bigger mountains, like up around like Blackheath area, you got Lockley's Descent or Perry's Descent or something like that. Or if you can get to Bright, obviously coming and running middle track itself is the best way to train. And yeah, downhill running is not a heaps long adaptation period. You know, you don't need 10 years to get good at it. You can get you can get a lot better at it in 2 months. So certainly something, if I was racing the 20K, I'd be thinking about. So yeah, you roll down into the Baker's Gully aid station, the first spot the second spot you can get crew. We have got a little water point at Mystic Summit, which is most of you probably won't stop there. It's early on in the race, more of a little check-in, and then your crew and a bigger aid station will be down in the valley here, and worth, I think, refueling, because this next section is just very hard. Talk us through, like, I guess, this transitional period here, Dunstan, where you get a little bit of nicer, I guess, running before the climb to Clear Spot.
Yeah, I think the running on this single track through the trees here is actually really nice. It's shaded. I feel like the trail is quite smooth and windy. Like, you won't be running paces that you would if it was just an open fire trail. But yeah, it's quite flowy running, and it's a really nice change up. Yeah, you'd want to be just rolling, but setting yourself up for the next section. Because then coming onto Breen Road soon is like also a really nice fire trail, but I mean, it's starting to become quite uphill as well. So that's actually crazy. You can actually see how steep the climb is there.
Yeah, Breen Road's a warm up for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is it's like the single track and then Breen Road is like how you approach that will very much set up how the climb's going to feel, I think. So yeah, definitely use it as a bit of a reset to tackle this steep climb up to Clear Spot. Yeah,
I'd essentially use it as a really nice transition. You got a bit of downhill into flat, and then Breen Road's a runnable dirt climb. I think a lot of the field will try and plod along up most of Breen Road. And then you kind of get to Clear Spot Road, cross over that onto the steep climb. Now, any old school Buffalo Stampeders will know this climb used to be in the race. Not that long ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago. And it's super, super steep. We joined it at a slightly different spot than back then. I guess, yeah, it used to go up this little trail here, which you can see, which is pretty overgrown and unusable now. So we're joining it from this trail, and then from halfway up the climb, essentially, it's the old Buffalo Stampede Clear Spot climb. And it's, yeah, I guess a lot of people have done Emily Spur. Comparing it to Emily Spur, it is harder and steeper. It's, yeah, I don't know the percentage grade or whatever, but this is a pole course for any runner. Like, if you have the ability to train with some poles and get some poles, certainly this climb, it would be very beneficial for any runner to just get a bit more mechanical, benefit out of them. Otherwise, it's a bit of a hands on knees sort of situation going up here. Dunstan, you've ran down here before. How'd you go? It's probably better to sign up.
Yeah, I think I was just like reliving that running down it, and I don't know if I've run down too many things that are steeper, or like just thinking about you talking about poles going up. Would I be right in saying it's more skatey than like Emily Spur in terms of the surface?
Yeah, definitely.
I think even like if you do enjoy using poles, like my brain immediately goes to like just how good it would be to have more contact points in terms of like being able to push through poles and through your legs rather than just like hands on knees and slipping back. But yeah, that's like as steep as fire trails I feel like I've ever run anywhere. It's it'd be crazy to climb up, especially if you've gone out too hard too early. So I'd be pretty respectful of this climb for sure.
Yeah, and also no one's going to be going quick up here, no matter where they are in the field. I don't think anyone's going to run this climb, no matter who they are. So, and I would recommend, there's a lot of like these tiny little road crossings. Maybe you break the climb up mentally into like get to the next road crossing. You could even stop, have a gel, have a drink of water, take a photo, and then keep going. Like, it's not going to be the kind of climb you can just get out of the way quickly or push up. I think everyone's going to have to take their time up there and break it up into sections. It's always it's always hard. And you know, people who have run the Stampede back in like 2019 or before that will know. Yeah, we'll just know what we're talking about. It's like old school Stampede trail again, and I guess how the race kind of got its name as like a gnarly mountain run. So yeah, the 20K is the only race that gets to do this trail as well. So yeah, I think it'll be a lot of fun, a lot of war stories at the end of the race, maybe after a few hours. You do get to the summit eventually, and I love Clear Spot. It's a beautiful spot. You can see Buffalo off to the west, and you can see town below you. And the good thing about the 20K is it's pretty direct to town once you do get to Clear Spot. So absolutely critical aid station. You'll need the aid. It'll be like a recovery aid station, I guess, where you can take your time, sit around, and enjoy the spot that you're in. And then knowing that you've done a lot of the hard work, I guess, of the race. Yeah, so all the climbing essentially is done, like apart from some tiny like rises. The last section of this course is all downhill, and it's maybe you kind of know these tracks as well, Dunstan. Like how does this downhill differ to middle track?
Yeah, so definitely like more open fire trail with some really steep pinches still, but I think like in my brain the defining feature is that it can be, if it's really dry, it can be quite skatey on some of the steeper pinches. So like I think the way I think about it is sometimes heading into those like steep parts is you want to almost monitor your speed before it, because if you start braking, like you will slide on these. But in terms of that, it's like if you do, you head into the steep parts cautiously and you can let your legs like flow and run and not brake too much, it's really good running. So I think just be mindful of the steep sections and then make the most of the less steep parts of this descent, because yeah, it's quite fast fire trail running here. So yeah, I can imagine, yeah, in the 20K, if you're feeling good here and you're feeling confident on the downhill, like you can fly. And then is this coming onto the single track? Yeah. So this part here is like, I feel this single track is, well, not as steep or anything. It does feel like it's kind of a bit in parts, like a little bit off camber and things like that, where it's a bit different to where you've gone through before. Yeah, I haven't run the full part, but I know where it pops out, and yeah, it's quite narrow from memory. Yeah.
The race will be quite spread out through here, but yeah, it's a narrow single track. It's a little bit technical. It's a beautiful trail called Valley View Track, and it's just a bit of a change up from what you've been on, just immediately before that.
Definitely slows things up for sure. Hey?
Yeah, and from the end of that, you've got, town is right there. You'll be able to hear the finish line. You'll be able to hear the MC and the music, and there is a little bit of a detour to get there, to avoid some of the major roads and such. But yeah, essentially you're home and hosed from that sort of point on, with some kind of, a little bit of trail, a little bit of dirt track running around the back of town, until you pop out onto like the paved streets and pavements of Bright for the final K or so. And then you get back to where you started, which is always the goal. And yeah, I think like looking at that profile, like it's really like a 2 climbs and 2 descents, and like the front half is a lot sort of harder. Like once you get to Clear Spot, you're pretty much done, and you've still got a third of the distance to go. So if you're looking at your watch and you're thinking, oh man, I haven't gone very far, just know that like the back half of the race is slightly harder than the front, and it's only like, I think you just got to put one foot in front of the other with this course. The 20K is always the hardest one, and like per pound for pound of all the courses, and yeah, it's kind of like the epitome of like, I guess, sky running in Australia is this loop in a way. Great for locals who often get out on these trails, but yeah, it's not easy if you haven't done a bunch of steeper sort of terrain. But yeah, that's the 20K. So hopefully that sort of helps the 20K runners get their heads around it. And we'll jump onto the 10K course. So this is the 10K runners. Like a lot of the 10K runners can, as you can imagine, like sort of getting into trail running, and they want to try something pretty gnarly. This is like not an easy 10K. And as you can see, like all the climbing sort of comes in those first few Ks, and then it's a long descent with a lot of, different sort of trail, varying as you go, and a whole range of skill sets really in a little 10K package. So Dunstan, you have ran up Emily Spur a fair few times in your life. This is the only climb in the 10K, so it's a chance to, like, really, I guess you want to be almost planning to be maxed out at the summit, because it's a two-part race in a way. So how would you approach this course in any sort of mindset?
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing about like a 10K race where it's just up and down, is that you can really climb super hard. I think even the flat running here is like, maybe an awesome chance I'd run pretty firm on the flats, but then I'd be wanting to climb up Emily's at kind of like probably realistically like a 8.5, 9 out of 10 effort, just like, and even I'd probably disregard looking at many stats on the watch or anything, and just feel just basically climbing at what feels like a really solid, firm effort up to the top of Emily's. Because once you've done the bulk of the climbing, like aerobically, the hardest part of the race is done. Like you're going to be descending the whole time. So I think, figure out what I guess like a pacing strategy where you think, you can hold how long do you think like this climb would range from a beginner to a back of the packer? Are we talking like?
Yeah, I think anywhere between 20 minutes to an hour would be probably the maximum.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, almost anyone could do this climb at threshold.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the thing, is I think you'll find that like, this kind of length climb is like you could be climbing at threshold, then go above threshold before the top, and then recover on the downhill if you are familiar with training at that intensity, which I think is the exciting and scary part of 10K racing, is that, you can go above, then come back. But just know what kind of effort you can hold for what you think maybe time-wise it'll cost. I mean,
it's about 1 mile, so about 1.5 K, and 400 meters of climbing. So it's a pretty substantial climb for most parts of Australia. It's well known for a reason. It's super hard, but it does get broken up into these road crossings, and there's a great view the whole way up. So those of you who are just coming to try and finish at all costs, you can certainly stop at each road, take a few photos, take your time coming up, and eventually you do get there. It's not a never-ending climb. Like there's only one summit. Like there's no false summits, I guess. You can see the top most of the way up as well, which is either a good thing or a bad thing. But you do get to the top and then have an amazing view from the launch pad over Bride, over Mount Papunka. It's a rewarding climb. Like it's you can see the top, and when you get to the top, it's super beautiful. So there's a reason why it's well known. For the 10K, there's a nice little aid station there. It'll be well stocked, and often some people run through it. Some people stop and have some chips or whatever. But this is like the downhill, depending on on who you are, you might have to have your head torch on. Everyone has to carry the head torch to keep it fair, but probably half the field might not have to use it, or will be squinting in the last couple K, trying not to use it. But yeah, certainly putting your head torch on at the summit for a lot of you, and getting ready to flick it on when you need to on the downhill. So yeah, this downhill, a lot of you won't have run it, and Dunstan obviously hasn't run it because it's not like the 10K is unique in that it's all contained within Mystic Mountain Bike Park. So you're not even really allowed to run a lot of the trails legally in there. And it's good to watch this video to get an idea of the course and visualize it, but you actually can't go out and train on it necessarily because it's, you know, techie mountain bike trails and stuff. And if you're out there on a popular weekend, you'd probably get run over. So it starts with this sort of K or two around the back of Mystic along the nice road in the natural bush. Actually a beautiful road to run on, kind of like a gradual downhill. You can go out and train on this little section depending on the logging schedule. It's a good little warm up into the downhill. Like you're not going straight to the summit and then bombing down a techie black trail or whatever, which is what you did last year. But this year you get a bit more of a warm up. And then you do re-meet the course. You don't cross over the other runners, but you will, depending on where you are in the field, either see them coming back or see them going out. Give them a high five at Emily's corner, and then take a sharp right to head to Techno Prisoners. So yeah, this little section of road here is one of my favorite actual sections of road in like the whole area. It's just this beautiful, like high, flat road called Moran Road, and you get this beautiful view of Feathertop. And if it's a good day, it's just so scenic. So super nice. Just being on, but like you can see how you're really just above Wandy here. Hey, like if you look at that on the map, it's like Summit of Mystic, just straight drop off into Wandy. Wandy's the town just south of Bright. And this trail is as I said, it's a black diamond mountain bike trail. Probably easier to run than ride. It's a lot easier to run than ride. But steep in sections, and it's like all open through here. It's just been recently cut. And so it's just a super beautiful mountain bike trail to run. And you'll get amazing views, and be conscious of other runners because they might be slower or faster than you down here. So essentially you got this techie black mountain bike trail, and then you hit Brown Road. And from the bottom of that trail, it's a slightly trending uphill as you get from the bottom of Techno Prisoners back to Emily's Spur area. So Dunstan, you ran a lot of these like fire trails around Bright, and this is like a gradual Brown Road climb. You actually have to settle in here because it's a fair distance. I think you got about 1.5 K. So how does that break up your downhill, and how do you normally feel on those sort of like, I guess, random little downhill breakup fire roads?
Yeah, I would say like it's probably on any other given day you'd feel really good, but just given the intensity of the climb and then the downhill at like a 10K race effort, like I think don't be disheartened if you feel like you're moving fairly slowly or it feels really quite challenging. I think even just in comparison to moving quick on a downhill, like, even if it's a slight uphill and it's open fire trail, like it can be quite humbling. But I think just, the legs are going to be heavy. So it's just a matter of doing the best you can. And I think just keeping the legs turning over the best you can. That's about all the advice that I have. Is just that it probably won't be as pretty as it looks on the profile.
Yeah, it's a slight bit more climbing in this year than last year, and that all comes from this little section in here. Like, we're not talking like anything substantial. You probably should try and run all of it, or you know, you might have to walk some bits if you're just feeling lousy. But yeah, kind of like a beautiful road though that changes as you run. It does cross a lot of mountain bike trails. It goes through some pines. It goes through some cleared sections, and yeah, I love Brown Road. And then eventually you meet Boogaloo, which is another. So from here to the bottom of Mystic is another techie black mountain bike trail, and it's even this one's an older one. So Techno Prisoners has just been built, so it's kind of still quite nice and in good condition. This one's a bit more rutted out, which makes it more technical for running. And you know, it's probably one of those ones where if you're trying to run it fast, you're probably grabbing onto trees as you go down to like break you, and like it's pretty fun to run. And if you're at the back of the field, you probably got your head torch on at this stage. And a lot of it is like jog, 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 and then step down, like walk a couple steps, jog, jog, jog. Hard to get a rhythm on, sort of thing. But I can see it being a lot of fun for a lot of the field, especially if you love downhill running on technical trail. It does get a bit loose in sections. It's going to be a bit of like a surprise to everyone on race day, because you're not supposed to run down here in training. And so it's an even playing field. You know, it's not like locals who'll have an advantage or anything. And I think it's just see what you can do on race day, sort of thing. But yeah, worth noting that it's a twilight race and probably getting dark for a lot of the field through that section. So that's the twilight part of it, I guess. But yeah, then you're down on the bottom, and we've included just for the 10K that little river section to finish you along. Much more nice running on the river trails to the finish than just the roads of Pioneer Park. So yeah, you run along the river section. If you're super chill and you don't care about your race, there's a couple good little swimming holes along there. But I'm sure we should give a prize if somebody actually comes into the finish fully drenched in like water. That'd be cool. Yeah, proving you've been for a swim. And then up to the finish line, which completes that like little 10K local Mystic lap, and completes our course overview. So any final words on the 10K there, Dunstan? Or is that going to be your race this year?
I think I'm working, but yeah, no, maybe I don't know. I think Mystic is, or like Emily Spur Climb is very much at whatever your ability is gonna. I think I said 8.5 or 9 out of 10 effort, and then in hindsight, I'm like, depending on what you can recover from, So I think it's a gray area there in terms of how to pace Mystic, but just my only comment. Yeah,
no, it's a good little local loop and challenging for no matter who you are, I think so. Which is similar to all the courses in a way. So yeah, that's the 2026 courses. I think we babbled on enough, didn't we? So it was hopefully giving you a good idea of your event. Obviously, don't have to watch the whole thing. I hope you clicked to the chapter that you needed. But thanks, Dunstan, for coming along and talking us through. And you'll see both of us at the event. Dunstan will be holding a camera.
Or a phone, probably a phone.
Well, yeah, phone and a camera. And I'll be standing at the finish line probably. So yeah, good luck with the final 2 months of training, and we'll see you there.